The architect of veils. Calderon never believed in coincidence. He believed in movements, in symbols, in the invisible geometry of fate. When Ava Nazari's controversial thesis, The Solar Sacrament, emerged, he was already attuned to the subtle shifts in ancient energies. He saw the genuine insight in her work, the dangerous truths she was uncovering, because he had walked a similar path, delving into the same suppressed texts and recognizing the same patterns. He knew she was flame-born not from church dogma, but from the signs and portents he himself had learned to read from the Mithraic mysteries. He believed in her not as a scholar, but as a key, a manifestation of the return of Mithra, the ancient force he now secretly served. He saw her brilliance as a sign, a convergence of prophecy and genetic reality that transcended modern understanding. This made Calderon quite an enigma, officially distanced from the church, yet still operating within its orbit, secretly aligned with an ancient cult, and a protector of Ava, whose awakening could either save or shatter the world. His loyalty was not to an institution, but to a deeper, more primal truth. Father Mateo Calderon never believed in coincidence, but in movements, in symbols, in the invisible geometry of fate that laced the world like the lines of a spiderweb. And the woman, Ava Nazari, was at the center of it now. She didn't know she was being watched. That was good. But others were watching, too. And they didn't intend to protect her. He leaned against the ancient stone of Sa Cathedral, the weight of his collar heavier than usual. It felt less like vestment and more like a chain. Ava had walked these same steps not an hour ago, her presence lingering in the air like incense. She didn't even glance at him. She never saw the moment when he whispered into his lapel, "Target past Rua de São João de Praca. Acquisition not advised." She's still dormant. Dormant. Not safe. Not harmless. Just not awakened. Yet, Calderon wasn't an exorcist, nor a field agent. He was something worse, an archivist. A man trained not only in church dogma but in the hidden texts. The interdicted Gospels. The burnt fragments from Ansh and Qumran. The pieces that had been deliberately erased. And among those fragments was a name that had resurfaced across centuries like a curse scratched into the bones of civilization, Mithra. He remembered when the rumors first surfaced again, 2 years ago. Symbols appearing in strange places. Graffiti in sacred geometries. A child in Romania who spoke ancient Avestan in her sleep. The fire in the Ethiopian monastery that left no ash. And now this girl. Ava. Half scholar, half lost, haunted by signs she couldn't yet read. But Calderon could. The symbols she left behind. The dreams he overheard her whispering in sleep. The journal entries the cult intercepted. He flipped through a small notebook in his coat. Ava's handwriting copied meticulously. The 2 fish drown in flame. One with blood, one with fire, one with nothing. I saw the lion, and it was me. She was close. Too close. And others were stirring, the old blood in Istanbul, the Templar remains in Portugal, and whispers from Sinai, where something had begun to glow in the mountain rock. He feared the church would act too late. Or too soon. From his vantage near the tram line, Calderon caught a glimpse of Ava again, walking alone, distracted, clutching that book with the blank pages that wrote themselves. He didn't move to intercept. He never would. That wasn't his role. But he did whisper, to no one and everyone, "She is the flame. And the flame does not ask permission." He crossed himself. And turned into the fog. His eyes snapped open. He gasped, sucking in ragged breaths, his chest heaving as if he had just escaped a crushing weight. The lingering terror of the dream clung to him, a cold shroud in the pre-dawn darkness. He sat bolt upright, heart hammering against his ribs, staring wildly at the familiar contours of his bedroom, trying to reconcile the visceral horror with the mundane reality. It took a long moment and several deep, shuddering breaths, for the last tendrils of the nightmare to recede, leaving him shaken and profoundly disturbed. He had no name for what he had seen, no context for the ancient power that had reached into his sleep. He only knew that the world he thought he understood had just fractured. The lion's mark and the unconquered sun. Father Mateo Calderon gasped, sucking in ragged breaths, his chest heaving. The opulent silence of his Berlin apartment offered no comfort, no escape from the lingering terror. Images of a golden bull, a searing flame, and ancient, guttural chants clawed at his mind. His features, sharp and aristocratic, contorted in distress. He sat bolt upright, heart hammering against his ribs, staring wildly at the familiar contours of his bedroom. "Now," he whispered, the word a raw rasp in the pre-dawn darkness. "Is this really power? Why is this happening?" The world he thought he understood had just fractured again, more violently than ever before. He had no name for what he had seen, no context for the ancient power that had reached into his sleep. The visceral shock of the dream pulled him back, not to the present, but to a time long past, to another land where the sun held ancient dominion. Flashback 1. The Andes, Peru, a baptism of fire. Years ago, when he was still truly Father Mateo Calderón, a dutiful priest, a scholar in the service of the Holy See, he had stood at the edge of a jagged cliff in the sacred valley. The cold was unrelenting, the stars sharp and indifferent, closer than he'd ever felt them in Rome. He had traveled alone, following fragments of old Coptic scrolls buried deep in the Vatican archives. A line in broken Aramaic, a whisper from the forgotten past, had led him here. The flame that feeds the sun waits where jaguars and condors trade sky. And now, beneath the indifferent gaze of the Andean peaks, the initiates of the Mithraic flame stood before him, hooded figures, their forms indistinct in the frigid night, their voices a tapestry of ancient tongues, Old Persian, Latin, even the resonant cadences of Quechua. Their faces were unseen. But their voices were ancient, resonating with a power that vibrated in the very stone beneath his feet. A simple bowl of burning coals sat between them, the fire within it a defiant flicker against the vast darkness. "Do you renounce the lie of empire?" one asked, their voice echoing in the thin air. "I do," Calderón answered, his own voice steady, surprising himself. "Do you accept the truth of cycles? Of light born from sacrifice?" "I do." "Do you understand that Mithra requires no worship, only witness?" "I understand." They stepped aside, their cloaks rustling like dry leaves. The fire in the bowl flared, impossibly, without fuel, licking higher into the cold air. "Then step into the flame." He stepped forward, not in faith, but in a scholar's desperate hunger for knowledge. The fire did not burn him. It swallowed him gently, like a memory, wrapping him in warmth, not heat. And in that moment, he saw. He saw bulls carved into stone deep beneath Istanbul, their eyes blazing with a hidden life. He saw a woman with eyes like obsidian, Ava? He does not know of this character yet, but now he seems to think so, her perfect egg-shaped face contorted in a silent scream as she stood before a ruined altar. He saw Judas laughing at the cross, his face contorted in a mockery of divine agony, and Peter weeping in the shadows, his hands stained by something more than denial. He saw Ramon, older, gaunt, with grief in his gaze, relentlessly chasing signs he didn't yet understand. And above them all, watching from the stars, a celestial hunter, a god neither dead nor risen, but simply waiting, Mithra. When Calderón emerged from the flame, the fire in the bowl was out, leaving only the faint scent of ash and a cold stone. A new scar marked his chest, etched as if by unseen fire, a lion devouring the tail of a serpent, ringed by 7 stars. He said nothing. But something deep inside him had turned, from servant of the church to sentinel of the flame. He was no longer merely Mateo Calderón, the Jesuit scholar. He was a keeper of the hidden way, his journey forever altered by the truth found in fire. Flashback 2. The Andes, Peru, the invocation of the unconquered sun. Immediately after his fiery initiation in the high Andes, Father Mateo Calderón, now a freshly marked initiate, stood among the congregation. This was no new location, but the continuation of his profound transformation. The sacred space among the peaks, adorned with symbols of the sun, light, and victory, still faced the eastern sky, awaiting the first blush of dawn. A central altar, made of dark, polished basalt, glowed faintly from within, a brazier ready for incense, an offering bowl poised. Leading the ritual was Linz, whose towering presence commanded the space, a figure Calderón now knew intimately. He was not just a powerful force within the Vatican's whispered circles, but the true high priest of the cult of Mithra, a leader whose influence stretched far beyond the confines of this hidden gathering, reaching into the very heart of the Catholic Church where he held the undeniable rank of bishop. Lince's very being seemed a living conduit for Mithra's will, his eyes holding a gold-flecked light that echoed the Andean flame. Calderon, standing among the faithful, felt the ancient words resonate in his bones, no longer just academic curiosities but living truths. This was not a dream, this was the reality he had sought, raw and unfiltered, a communal confirmation of the cosmic purpose revealed in his solitary trial. At dawn, facing east. Lince, high priest, behold, O sons and daughters of light. The shadows flee, the darkness yields, for the golden orb ascends. Hail to the dawn, harbinger of strength, dispeller of night. Congregation, fidels, including Calderon, hail, Sol Invictus. Unconquered sun. Light of our lives. Lince, high priest, from the eastern gates, he rises, magnificent and pure. He is the eye of the cosmos, the giver of life, the eternal victor over the encroaching dark. Let our hearts burn with his fire, and our spirits be renewed by his eternal gaze. Congregation, fidels, by his light, we are seen. By his warmth, we are nourished. By his will, we endure. Lince lights incense in the brazier, the smoke rising towards the dawn. Lince, high priest, we offer this fragrant breath, O Sol Invictus, as a symbol of our devotion, a smoke ascending to your luminous throne. Accept our praise, our gratitude, and our unwavering loyalty. Congregation, fidels, from shadow into light, we ascend with you, O Sun. Lince, high priest, great soul, unconquered one, you who guide the legions and empower the emperor, you who bring forth the harvest and illuminate the hidden truths. We ask for your favor upon us, your steadfast strength in our endeavors, and your protection from all enemies, seen and unseen. Congregation, fidels, grant us victory, O Sol Invictus. Grant us courage. Grant us your unwavering light. Lince raises an offering bowl, perhaps containing consecrated wine or water, towards the rising sun. Lince, high priest, as you pour forth your golden rays upon the world, so do we receive your bounty. May our spirits be as unyielding as your course across the heavens, our purpose as clear as your midday brilliance. We drink of your essence, O unconquered sun, and are made whole. Congregation, fidels, Sol Invictus. Through your grace, we triumph. Through your fire, we are purified. Lince, followed by the congregation, bows deeply towards the rising sun. Lince, high priest, the day is born. The light reigns. Go forth, O faithful, and carry the fire of the unconquered sun in your hearts. May his victory be your strength, and his glory your guide. Congregation, fidels, hail, Sol Invictus. Hail, hail, hail. This ritual emphasized the Sol Invictus as a powerful, benevolent, and ever-victorious deity whose essence granted strength and protection, reflecting the solar cult's themes of light overcoming darkness and the cyclical renewal of life and power. For Calderon, it was a profound confirmation, tying his personal revelation in the Andes to a communal, cosmic purpose led by the true father of the flame. Now, Berlin, Germany, a reckoning in the dawn. Calderon's eyes snapped open again, the opulence of his Berlin apartment, typically a sanctuary, feeling like a cage. The images from the nightmare, the golden bull, the searing flame, the ancient chants, were not fading, but sharpening. Power! Why is this happening? His heart hammered, and the answer, raw and unavoidable, clawed its way from the depths of his being. The dream wasn't just a nightmare, it was a resonance, a visceral echo of the truths he had unearthed, the truths that had shattered his faith and reshaped his very soul. He rose from his bed, the lingering chill of the pre-dawn darkness a physical manifestation of his own internal turmoil. He strode to the window, watching the rain slick the streets below, mirroring the turbulence within. He had left the church, not due to stress as his carefully crafted papal dispensation claimed, but because he could no longer reconcile the monumental deception at its core. The church, in its relentless pursuit of dominion, had become a grand accumulator, a powerful absorber of ancient practices and symbols, layering them with new meaning to establish its own authority. He had seen it everywhere, from the subtle echoes of lustrations in holy water rites to the uncanny resemblance of revered saints to ancient polytheistic deities. The very calendar, the elaborate vestments, even the cross itself, were repurposed pagan forms, convenient adoptions to make conversion easier for the heathens. This wasn't divine revelation, it was pragmatism over purity, a carefully constructed edifice built on what he now perceived as a monstrous lie. His research, once funded by the church to defend its narrative, had revealed a systematic suppression and erasure of truth and history. He had found the interdicted Gospels, the burnt fragments, pieces deliberately removed because they revealed an inconvenient origin, a lineage that undermined the church's claims to singular divine authority. The more he dug, the more he found echoes of Ecclesiastes 1 verse 18, "For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow." His knowledge, instead of arming the institution, had exposed its flawed foundations. He knew now that humanity's faiths were but shattered reflections of an original truth, the Mithraic flame. The Abrahamic prophets, revered by billions, were, in his eyes, echoes of Mithra, misinterpreted and distorted over time. The church, far from being a pure conduit, had fractured the primeval light into fragments, creating a fractured world that warred over each piece. His nightmare, then, was not a descent into madness, but a confirmation. The golden bull, the searing flame, the guttural chants, they were the sacred echoes of the reality he now knew, a reality that the church had spent millennia burying. The raw power he felt, the knowledge that threatened to overwhelm him, was not an external entity trying to drive him insane, but the resurgence of the very divine truth he had embraced in the Andes. He ran a hand over the lion and serpent mark on his chest. He had chosen this path. This hidden war. His loyalty was not to the Vatican's temporal power, but to the cosmic balance, to the unconquered sun that rose beyond all dogma. The dawn broke over Berlin, painting the rain-slicked streets in hues of grey and bruised purple. Calderon, no longer tormented, but resolute, began to pack. His time here, observing Ava, making his quiet arrangements, was done. The dream had been a call to action. He would take the earliest possible flight. His destination, Rome. The heart of the old empire. The center of the church he had left, but whose shadows he still navigated. His true work awaited him there, a sentinel of the flame, operating in the very belly of the beast. The whispers and the choice. Elias Moreau had stopped sleeping. Not out of fear, but compulsion. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same thing, a lion-headed man with burning eyes, stepping over a dying fish, blade dripping light into an ocean of stars. This was not the age of Leo, but the lion of the cult, a symbol of ancient power reclaiming its dominion. And the dying fish, once a sign of peace, was now explicitly the church, its era receding into the cosmic tides. He was no longer sure if it was vision or memory. The raw power thrumming beneath his skin, the golden rings that sometimes flickered in his eyes, confirmed this was no mere madness. He sat at a quiet outdoor cafe near the edge of Lisbon's ancient ruins, sketchbook open, charcoal staining his fingers. The morning air, though cool, brought no respite from the heat within him. The page showed a symbol, 3 constellations arranged around a burning dagger. He hadn't drawn it consciously, his hand had moved almost autonomously. The woman who brought his coffee gave him a wide berth. She had every day since he'd arrived. Something about him was shifting, palpably. He could feel it. The whispers from the old stones of the Carmo church, its skeletal arches open to the sky, were calling him, almost as if they knew his name. But today, the whispers solidified into a presence. He sensed her before he saw her. She sat across from him without asking, her movements fluid, almost silent. A woman in her 40s, dressed in understated, elegant civilian clothes that hinted at wealth and discretion, yet moving with the calm economy of someone trained for far more than diplomacy. She placed a sealed envelope on the table, its wax crest unmarked by any familiar emblem. Her accent was faintly Mediterranean, smooth and refined. "Elias Moreau. You are dreaming things you shouldn't." Her dark eyes, intelligent and knowing, held his gaze. He stared at her, the charcoal forgotten. "Who are you?" I speak for those who came before, she replied, her voice polite, almost gentle, yet resonating with an undeniable authority. For the keepers of a flame that truly transforms, unlike the fleeting light of this waning age of Pisces. He didn't respond, his mind racing. She spoke of the church, of its hidden truths. She nodded subtly toward the envelope. Inside is an invitation, Mr. Moreau. A choice. Come with us, and we will protect you from those who would extinguish your flame. Refuse, and others will find you, others who don't believe in second chances. You think I'm a threat? Elias asked, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. We think you're becoming something the world isn't ready for, she corrected, her gaze unwavering. Something they will try to cage or destroy. Elias leaned forward, a desperate hunger for understanding overriding caution. I've seen a god kill the age of Pisces. I've seen him step into me. I am the vessel, and the fire, it burns. She didn't flinch. Her lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. That's why we are here, Elias Moreau. To offer you the truth of that power. The true name of the lion that hunts the fish. It is not madness. It is your inheritance. He opened the envelope. Inside, a map, coordinates to a location just outside the city, a monastery built atop a Roman ruin, and a single, handwritten name. Ramon de la Pina. The woman stood, her departure as subtle as her arrival. He will explain more, Mr. Moreau. He is one of ours, in his own way, a seeker of truths beyond dogma. But do not take too long. You're not the only one dreaming or waking. She walked away, disappearing into the bustling street, leaving Elias alone with the thrumming silence. Elias looked down at the map, then at the name. Ramon de la Pina. It was a name he didn't know, a new piece in a game he was only just beginning to comprehend. The visions were no longer confined to sleep. And now, they had found him. Meanwhile, the Templar data bunker, Porto, Portugal. Miles away, in the chill, server-humming confines of the Templar data bunker, the atmosphere was a controlled storm. Dame Anya Sharma watched the audio feed from Elias Moreau's apartment, her posture rigid. Beside her, Sir Kenjio Hiroshi's predictive models flickered wildly, the probability of external interference spiking. Dame Celeste Dubois, poised for deployment, gripped her tactical tablet, her eyes fixed on the green dots representing her ground team outside Elias's building. Sir Julian Thorne's cyberops were locked onto every digital signature in the vicinity. They are trying to quantify the divine. To measure a cosmic force with their earthly tools, the female voice of the Mithra's cult agent echoed through the comms. They offer you longevity. We offer you understanding. Mithra's cult. Anya clipped, her voice tight with suppressed frustration. Too fast. Their cloaking is rudimentary but effective enough for a human agent. They slipped past the outer layer. The agent's energy signature is consistent with a Leo-grade initiate, Sir Kenjio observed, his voice devoid of emotion as he analyzed the data streams. Bold. Direct engagement, bypassing all standard protocols. A calculated risk. They're taking a page from our book, Marcus Stone mused, a grim line to his lips. Leveraging the subject's internal experiences. A powerful psychological approach. Celeste growled, frustration tightening her jaw. We had eyes on the target. We had a plan for our approach. Now they've initiated contact. How many agents do they have in Lisbon? Their human resource limitations were acutely felt. They couldn't risk a direct confrontation that would expose their larger operations without understanding the cult's current force projection. Julian's fingers flew, trying to trace the agent's egress. The target is, offering a map. And a name. Ramon de la Pina. Cross-referencing. He looked up, his brows furrowed. No direct match. Closest is a Ramon Villanueva, Filipino academic, currently in Oxford. Potential alias, or a mistaken identity by the cult. Villanueva. Anya repeated, her eyes narrowing. She knew of Ramon's theoretical work, a potential convergence point. This complicates matters significantly. They've found him too. Or perhaps he sought them out. Anya's voice is sharp. Julian, track that name. Kenjio, Refine probability models for collaboration between Villanueva and the Mithras cult. Celeste, maintain perimeter, but do not engage unless Elias is directly threatened. We need to know what path the cult offers him, what secrets they are willing to share, and what exactly Ramon de la Pina means in their lexicon. The Council's primary move had been to observe and secure without direct engagement. This preemptive approach by the Mithras cult demanded immediate assessment and a rapid tactical adjustment. Their unseen war had just taken an unpredictable turn. The unraveling code. The locked leather chest, once a vault of forbidden knowledge, now lay open on the worn desk of Professor Blair's old office in Oxford. Dr. Ava Nazari stared at the contents, her own handwriting, her meticulously drawn diagrams of stellar alignments over ancient reliefs, her marginalia on Zoroastrian eschatology. This was it, her unfinished research, the culmination of years of dangerous, heretical thought. Yet, instead of illuminating the profound terror unfolding around her, it felt like a foreign language. It was a code. A complex, self-referential program she had written years ago, now devoid of comments, its logic opaque. Like a programmer returning to 6-month-old spaghetti code, Ava felt a profound frustration mount. The symbols, so clear in her dreams, blurred on the page. The connections, so intuitive before, now seemed like arbitrary lines on a forgotten map. How? When? What even was I thinking? The questions swirled, mocking her brilliance. The urgency of her situation, the chilling knowledge of her activation, the pursuit by unseen forces only intensified her mental block. She needed a key, a fresh perspective, but her mind felt locked in its own labyrinth. With a sigh of exasperation, she pushed the papers away, running a hand through her long, straight black hair. She needed a break, a distraction, anything to reset her overloaded mind. She pulled out her tablet, the screen glowing. Email. A deluge of spam, academic circulars, old conference invitations. She scrolled, almost idly, until a subject line, unassuming amidst the digital clutter, caught her eye, an unsettling intersection of scholarship and current events. It was from Ramon Villanueva. She remembered his first email, the perceptive assessment of her work, the shared intuition about a proto-religion. She remembered her reply, her hurried mention of her activation and urgent travel to London. But she hadn't heard back from his follow-up. Until now. His latest message was buried beneath the digital noise. I have just arrived in Oxford, precisely to follow the thread of your work here and to offer my immediate assistance. His here. A shock of relief, then a surge of desperate hope, washed over her. He wasn't just a name from Calderon's anecdotes, he was here, a potential ally in this terrifying, solitary quest. Without hesitation, her fingers flew across the keyboard, the frustration of her indecipherable research momentarily forgotten. Email from Ava Nazari to Ramon Villanueva. Subject: an unsettling intersection of scholarship and current events, urgent. Dear Mr. Villanueva, I confess, your previous email was a lifeline, and your presence here in Oxford is extraordinarily timely. Forgive my delayed reply. My research here has proven to be less illuminating and more bewildering than anticipated. I am, to put it mildly, stuck. I am currently in Professor Blair's old office, within the university grounds. I hope you are still here in Oxford. I am going to see you now. Sincerely, Ava Nazari. Minutes later, Ava Nazari, dressed in her khaki archaeologist's clothes, her Faravaha pendant swinging faintly as she moved, exited the quiet academic building and scanned the familiar quad. She spotted him almost immediately, a slender, bookish man with salt and pepper hair, looking a little out of place, but unmistakably the man from the email signature. Ramon Villanueva. He looked up as she approached, his dark brown eyes, gentle yet perpetually scanning, fixing on her. A polite smile touched his lips. Dr. Nazari, he greeted, extending a hand. Ramon Villanueva. It's a privilege. Please, Ava, she said, taking his hand, her grip firm. And the privilege is mine. Your email was truly a beacon. They found a quiet bench beneath an ancient oak, the sounds of distant student chatter a muffled backdrop to their burgeoning conversation. They spoke for a long time, not about prophecies or watches, but about themselves. Ramon, with his monk-like patience and a touch of self-deprecating humor, recounted his early seminary disillusionment, his academic digressions into obscure texts, and the global odyssey that followed Isabella's death. He spoke of his hobby of archaeoastronomy, the startling patterns of solar alignments in ancient structures, and his proto-religion theory, the idea of a universal spiritual grammar underlying all faiths. Ava, in turn, found herself opening up, drawn by his empathetic presence. She spoke of her Iranian-American upbringing, her grandfather's Zoroastrian stories, and her academic path from Wesleyan to Harvard, culminating in her controversial Mithraic research. She shared her fascination with the gaze of the bull, the dagger, the silence of the stone relief. They discovered a shared intellectual loneliness, a mutual understanding of what it meant to see patterns where others saw only chaos. "It sounds like you've seen a great deal, Mr. Villanueva," Ava remarked, a faint smile on her lips. "More than most scholars in a lifetime." "And you, Dr. Nazari," Ramon replied, "have not just seen, but lived the myths. The implosion in Tehran. The whispers of activation. My email spoke of stirrings in Rome, but it seems you've been at the very epicenter of them." The shift was subtle, a gentle gravitational pull from casual conversation to the pressing urgency that had brought Ramon across continents. Ava's smile faded. "Indeed, Mr. Villanueva. I am, to be frank, utterly stuck." She gestured vaguely towards the university buildings. "My own research, which should hold the keys to all this, is proving intractable. It's like a code written in a language I once knew, but have forgotten." Ramon's eyes lit up, the research genius and master of connecting dots immediately engaged. "A code? Dr. Nazari, may I see it?" His calm demeanor held an unwavering certainty. Perhaps, two minds, working on the same puzzle, might find the solution faster. Sometimes, the pattern reveals itself from a different angle. Ava hesitated for only a moment. This man, a stranger just hours ago, felt like a beacon in the storm. "It's not conventional," she warned. "Nothing truly significant ever is, Dr. Nazari," Ramon replied, a knowing glint in his eye. "Especially not in this world. And certainly not in yours." "Fantastic," Ava breathed, a genuine spark of excitement in her eyes, eclipsing her earlier frustration. "It's a little late now, and you're undoubtedly battling jet lag from your extensive journey. That will give me time to make the necessary quick requests." She paused, considering. "I'll also check with the relevant university administration on the process for temporary research access. My status here should allow me to secure a temporary pass for you without undue scrutiny." Ramon nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. "Perfect. I could indeed use the time to adjust. My internal clock is a little fractured." They rose from the bench. "I'll email you tomorrow morning with the details," Ava promised. "I'll be waiting," Ramon replied, a new sense of purpose in his stride. They parted ways on the ancient grounds, Ramon heading back to the Rose and Ivy guesthouse to attempt to conquer his jet lag, or at least try to keep awake with his journal, while Ava returned to Professor Blair's office, her mind already buzzing with the bureaucratic and intellectual challenges of securing Ramon's access to the unraveling code. The urgent alliance had officially begun. Without further word, they rose. Ava led him back through the ancient university grounds, her mind buzzing with a fragile hope. Professor Blair's office, the repository of her dangerous thoughts, was technically her postdoctoral research space, and she held temporary authority for collaborator access. While the university's higher offices would typically require formal requests for external scholars to access such specific archives, Ava's status as a junior research fellow at All Souls College, coupled with the private patron funding her access to critical archives and artifacts, gave her the latitude to grant temporary, discrete access to a fellow academic for collaborative research. It wasn't entirely outside the rules, especially for unpublished material, and given the urgency she felt, standard protocol was a luxury she couldn't afford. The door to the archive, to the unraveling code, now opened not just for her, but for a new, unexpected ally. Hello folks, we thank you for listening this far. I have decided to reformat the way I am uploading the audio. It is a little short and does not seem fit for this kind of stories, I hope I can write it in a 10-hour version if possible. It will take a while to write though, the complexities of the characters themselves is already confusing enough.